when I was discussing the same issue with Siddhant sir, he told me that the only way of getting out is, first of all, people take charge. Secondly, government planning accordingly, right? And third, people refraining from using drugs. Right.
So the point is that the house has to become the mini government. ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਿਨੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਹੈ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਈ ਜੋ ਸਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ, it doesn't solve any because drugs largely is a political narrative. No one is bothered. You think anyone is bothered? ਕੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਟਮਾਟਰ ਮਹਿੰਗੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਤਾਂ everyone will shift from drugs to tomato. See, peer pressure, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਡਰਗ ਦੇ ਦੇਵੇ, no that is not cool. ਕਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਸਮਾਰਟ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਡਰਗ ਵਾਲਾ? ਨਾ ਨਾਤਾ ਨਾ ਤੋਤਾ ਗੰਦਾ, ਬਟ ਫਿਟ ਬੰਦਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਹੀ ਸਮਾਰਟ ਲੱਗਦਾ, ਕੱਪੜਾ ਵੀ ਫਿਟ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਿਲ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ spend money on that narrative. In fact, all these advertisements which I keep seeing the government is wasting money, they should just structure it through a very powerful ad agency and reach to the last person to change the narrative of Punjab. That sports is cool. These DPR kind ads don't work. Nashe chhaddo, they don't work. It's a campaign. So the point is that what are we trying to achieve? Are we saying that it is the songs that are making people drug addicts? No, that's a nonsense kind of
proposition maybe?
Proposition. No, it's not that. It's literature usually is used to highlight the menace,
Right.
and in a grim, grave manner. But in the entertainment industry, it takes a different form. Basically, even though they talk about the current times or this thing, but it is largely used as a tool to entertain people, not to shock people, not to make them aware. So if drugs was cool, or I mean, I haven't heard a song which says shun alcohol. It largely exactly. Propagates it and the mood and so if you look at, so media always commercializes the menace, whereas literature doesn't commercialize it. Literature largely is there to share the pain,
To criticize it?
not to criticize. I mean, criticize is not an objective.
Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond the Surface podcast presented by CognifAI. Today I have an honor of hosting Khushwant Singh, who is a very renowned literary figure. He has written quite a lot of books, and I've got the chance of hosting Sir on Beyond the Surface. Today's podcast is going to be very special, and it will revolve around drugs. Now, when I say drugs, why exactly drugs? Sir has written a very good book that goes by the name The Opium Toffee. Apart from that, he recently hosted a walk on drugs, in which he tried to let us know about what are drugs and what are the effects of drugs, and we need to overcome the menace that it is currently spreading all over India and also in Punjab especially. So that would be my part. Now I'll ask Sir to please introduce himself.
Sorry. Thank you, Harsh. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you, sir.
And it's always nice to see youngsters doing these interesting and creative works.
Thank you.
So, yes, please shoot your questions.
All right. Before starting, sir, I would just say that I went through the book. I took a couple of days and I covered the whole book. It took me a little long, but I found it very intriguing. I mean, you have covered topics from terrorism to insurgency to, of course, the Opium Toffee. What exactly the Opium Toffee? I want you to explain what exactly was the opium toffee and how come did you come up with this idea of telling the story of drugs.
Thank you again. I saw your post on Instagram where you posted a review of the book.
Thank you.
Very complimentary. Thank you for that. Uh, so, this novel, The Opium Toffee, I mean, I just loved the title and then I revolved the book around it. But it's largely set in the 1980s, the turbulent phase of Punjab. And we grew up in that phase. And so I'm witness to that phase. So I basically structured the entire narrative around that time and what was happening and the ills and the turbulence that Punjab went through. I
Mhm.
mean, no one benefited, everyone
Exactly.
suffered.
Yeah, right.
And so, through literature, through these books, I think when we look back, we want to draw out conclusions, we want to draw out lessons. Uh, we want to share the narrative with the entire country because people have perceptions. People don't know a jack shit of what's happening, and today our media is compromised. So you don't get the truth. So I think it was important that via this method of literature, I could put the entire saga in perspective. And drugs over the last 2 or 3 decades has just um, become part of from the terrorism phase. We've just fallen into this um, you know narco terrorism now,
Right.
and which Punjab wasn't meant to.
Yeah, exactly.
Punjabis weren't meant to do this. Punjabis were, and that's why people are surprised also. I mean, you have drugs everywhere. You have it in New York, London, um, Goa, but people are astonished for Punjab because Punjab wasn't meant to be this state. It was meant to be a state of pride, valor, uh, strength. Here, I mean, in the sense, smoking was also a taboo. When we were growing up, smoking was a taboo. Uh, so, how we fell in this trap from a transit state because it comes from Afghanistan, how we became a consumer state. So, yeah, it's a sorry state of affairs currently.
Yes, exactly. That is quite true. Because talking from the very perspective of the production of drugs, it is very ironic that Punjab does not produce opium, right? It does not produce opium, and that's where it is coming
So
from.
these are technical matters. I think we
Yeah,
should not, comment specifically on these things. But uh, Punjab is a consumer of things other than opium. Also, Punjab is consuming a lot of these medicines and all that. These chemical things. You have six chemists in one village for what? For a population of 1,400, you have 8 chemist shops in a village. They open shutter at 7 a.m. I mean, it's ridiculous. There is someone has to see. Look at that. That
that is true.
it's something staring on your face.
That is true. That is true. I mean, it is not just one kind of drug, but many other types of drugs. Uh, Youth is consuming IVs, intravenous injections, and they are using them to get high. Although, I want to ask you, sir, while you were writing this book, I know that you have grown around 1980s and all. Have you personally experienced such kind of menace?
Oh yes, we do. I mean, when you're growing up, I mean, I can't say put a specific incident, but there were incidents all around. Some very close to you, some which you would hear, in your college, around in the hostel, or uh, this thing. So, and obviously, every household would discuss these things. We were growing up, I was what, 16, 17. In fact, I was only 11 when 1984, when the Operation Blue Star and later on um, the anti-Sikh riots happened. Uh, so you knew what was happening.
That was a
And
sad
as you
affair.
grow up, then I, became a journalist. I wrote for mainstream newspapers. And then I wrote Captain Amarinder's biography. I came across a lot of material, a lot of information, a lot of interviews. So so a lot of things I was able to put in perspective, and then I wrote the Opium Toffee.
Right. Well, that is good. You have quite a lot of depth, what I can understand, because you have seen the menace firsthand, right? It is not the secondary data that you are currently saying that you have written in the very literature that you have written, right? My question would be for you, sir, would be how was the portrayal of drugs use in literature and media have evolved over time? Because we see that media and singers, they use words such like dope, and they show that people are doing drugs and all. Do you think that is a
You see,
what kind of portrayal is
see,
that?
I think the difference is that literature literature usually is used to highlight the menace, and in a grim, grave manner. But in the entertainment industry, it takes a different form. Basically, even though they talk about the current times or this thing, but it is largely used as a tool to entertain people, not to shock people, not to make them aware. So, so if drugs was cool,
Hmm.
or I mean, I haven't heard a song which says shun alcohol. It largely
Yeah, exactly.
propagates it and the mood,
Right.
and uh, so if you look at, so media always commercializes the menace, whereas literature doesn't commercialize it. Literature largely is there to share to share the pain,
To criticize it.
not to criticize. I mean, criticize is not an objective of
Hmm.
this thing, but to share the pain amongst everyone, so that people can understand, and also trap or write about that particular era.
Right.
So entertainment and literature are two separate fields altogether.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay. I did a podcast with recently with Siddhant Agnihotri sir. So he's a UPSC coach. We went in detail of understanding from where drugs come in India. He made us aware of whole golden triangle and golden trisect, that theory of what happens. He specifically mentioned that singers nowadays are using these kinds of words like, drugs and showing them on the screen. I suggested the idea that if you are showing such kind of things, maybe what you can do is you can also show a person who is suffering from drugs and maybe tell them that it is not a good thing and all.
So these suggestions don't work largely because they are not creating docudramas or documentaries. What they are trying to do is entertain people. So whatever script works the best, that script goes. For example, now you have, when someone is smoking or you have someone is drinking, so now they have that tagline that tobacco or this
Yeah.
thing is injurious to health. So that's the max they can go, perhaps.
Yeah.
But to ask them to do something beyond their script, I don't think so that's going to work,
Yeah, that is a different thing. That
because
thing
you
that
also cannot
it
you
won't
also,
sell in the first
no,
place.
it's not a question of not selling also.
Yeah.
It's also you cannot bring in these regulations and keep monitoring these things. There has to be self-regulation,
All right.
because where does it stop, this monitoring then? And I'm very much against all this monitoring and over-regulation. The writers, the singers, they themselves should be able to self-regulate and bring in restraint and within them their own creativity.
All right.
So they have to be smart about it.
Self-consciousness, you are saying.
Yeah.
That is one perspective of putting things. Do you think, sir, that would be effective?
So the point is that what are we trying to achieve? Are we saying that it is the songs that are making people drug addicts? No, that's a nonsense kind of a
Proposition, maybe?
proposition. No, it's not that. It's there are various factors to it. People are consuming outside of Punjab also. Punjabis who are in Canada, who are in are also consuming drugs.
That's true.
So there is something much deeper, so just to blame singers or actors for this is also not fair. I mean they're
Right.
not going selling around and uh, this thing. So it's a very wholesome
Yeah.
uh, this thing. But yes, if someone is outrightly trying to promote um, consumption of drugs or alcohol, that in any case is against law.
Against law, you say?
Yeah, I mean in the sense that you cannot ask someone to go and have drugs,
Yeah, of course.
so you can't have. So but what I'm trying to say is that uh, that there has to be a self restraint, and if the singers and the artists change the narrative in a different way, maybe they will help in building a better narrative. That's But to just say that only singers are
No,
responsible,
of course. It is not the single reason that it exists. The major reason for the usage of drugs is, first of all, I'd say employment. Right? Why do I say this? Because people who do not have a means of earning money, they get into this business.
I disagree with you here, because largely the age which you would have also seen is surveys say the age is 13 to 16 years.
Yeah, right.
Right? At that age and stage, they are not meant to be employed. They are meant to be in school or college.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So those are the factors. So largely the factor important is that parents or mothers, especially from 13 to 18 or 17, must keep a watch
Yeah.
on their children, what they are doing, whom they are meeting. Is there a change in their behavior? Mothers especially, in fact, I would say that Punjab government should launch a campaign, Mothers Against Drugs. Keep the men out, make village committees with mothers who supervise. If ਪਿੰਡਾਂ 'ਚ ਵੜਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਣਗੀਆਂ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ,
Yeah.
they'll enforce it better than the police. And you keep a watch, because 13 ਤੋਂ 16 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ ਤੇ there'll be a lot of circumstances for children. Bad marks, boyfriend girlfriend issue, bad parenting, domestic violence, breakup of marriage of parents. So many factors come into play at that time.
Right.
So that is a very critical stage. So survey actually says that about 47 to 48% are between this age bracket, when they try drugs.
Yeah.
So unemployment is a very later cause.
I remember when I was reading your book. So can I discuss a plot?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Ajit is given the Opium Toffee by Shabnam's father. Yeah, right? This could be the very thing that you are maybe trying to say.
Well, I mean, these are scenes. An actor plots so many things, but
Yeah.
to attribute that this is what happens, or this is to generalize it is not correct. I mean, I'm sure there are incidents like that.
Of course.
Like Sharik, what we call largely. So the premise of the book is built on the Sharik. That's what. Especially in the Malwa area, it's very prominent, where ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ especially from landed families, ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਭਰਾ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਾਂ ਰੂਇਨ ਕਰਨੇ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਤੇ ਲਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਡਰੱਗਸ ਤੇ ਲਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ. So it's a very common thing. So you have to watch your children. And during terrorism time also, ਸਾਰੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਇਹੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ 13 ਤੋਂ 18 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ ਤੇ ਗਰਮ ਉਮਰ ਹੈ ਨਾ.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? You react differently. ਤੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖੋ. So if you...
Kids are more intrigued towards this. They are more inclined towards using such things.
They also don't know. And also peer pressure.
Yeah.
Also they want to, distance themselves from reality, not face reality. So what are the things which will distance you from reality? Largely it's some sort of a drug. So that is critical. I think if anyone who's listening can pass on this message, that 13 ਤੋਂ 18 ਸਾਲ ਦੀ ਉਮਰ ਤੱਕ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖੋ. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅੱਛੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਸਾਂਭ ਜਾਏਗਾ. I took a 100-kilometer walk from Chandigarh to Khatkar Kalan, a walk against drugs. and I met various people on the way, at the starting point and at the end point. And that was my message. कि Punjab wasn't meant to, but bada, we are a very proud state. ਐਂਡ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਡਿੱਗੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਕਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਡਿੱਗ ਗਏ? ਡਰੱਗਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਢਾਲਿਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ, ਕੋਈ ਐਨਮੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਇਆ, ਕੋਈ ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਡਰੱਗਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਢਾਲਿਆ। ਸੋ ਦ ਯੰਗ ਆਫ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਿਲ ਹੈਵ ਟੂ ਆਲਸੋ think about it and take some pride in their state rather than falling to this nonsense.
That is good insight. Well, you have very well concluded what I was thinking, but this is very different perspective actually, putting it into words. All right, my next question to you would be, sir, what do you think would be the most effective way to address this menace?
Well, it's a like first I said, so it's a mix of enforcement and narrative. Punjab will have to change its narrative. It will have to build an ad campaign or something to the last person that drugs is not cool, sports is cool, kheda, physical fitness is cool, drugs is not sexy, peer pressure ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਡਰਗ ਦੇ ਦੇਵੇ, no that is not cool. ਕਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਸਮਾਰਟ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਡਰਗ ਵਾਲਾ? ਨਾ ਨਾਤਾ ਨਾ ਤੋਤਾ, ਗੰਦਾ। ਬਟ ਫਿਟ ਬੰਦਾ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਹੀ ਸਮਾਰਟ ਲੱਗਦਾ, ਕੱਪੜਾ ਵੀ ਫਿਟ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ। So Punjab will have to spend money on that narrative. In fact, all these advertisements which I keep seeing, the government is wasting money. They should just structure it through a very powerful ad agency and reach to the last person to change the narrative of Punjab. That sports is cool. These DPR kind ads don't work. Nashe chhaddo. These, they don't work. It's a campaign. Any student of communication will tell you that it is a very well thought out campaign. I think that is true. This is one of my suggestions that to deal with this. That how can we turn around the entire narrative and say sports is cool. So I think, or fitness is cool. ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਡ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਲੋਕ ਆਪਣੀ ਫਿਟਨੈਸ ਵਿੱਚ, to bring that sort of a narrative. Right. And it needs an effort, it needs money, it needs sincere effort but a smart effort. It's not ਕਿ ਐਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਟੁੱਟੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਏਜੰਸੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੇ ਦਿਓ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ DPR ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਨੂੰ ਕਹੋ ਕਿ ਆ ਕਰ ਦੇਵੇ. No. It needs a well thought out plan.
Well thought campaign, you say. All right. When I was discussing the same issue with Siddhant sir, he told me that the only way of getting out is, first of all, people take charge. Secondly, government planning accordingly, right? And third, people refraining from using drugs. Right?
So the point is that the house has to become the mini government. ਜਿਹੜੀ mini ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਘਰ ਹੈ। ਸਰਕਾਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਈ ਜੋ ਸਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ, ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੀਤਾ, it doesn't solve any, because drugs largely is a political narrative. No one is bothered. You think anyone is bothered? ਕੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਟਮਾਟਰ ਮਹਿੰਗੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਤਾਂ everyone will shift from drugs to tomato. So I know these lot very well. So you have to, so people have to understand ਕਿ ਮਿਨੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਘਰ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਘਰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਚਲਾਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਗਵਰਨ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ। ਰਾਈਟ। ਸੈਕਿੰਡ, ਕਿ ਟੂ ਸੇ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਵੇਚੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਕਿਉਂ?
Yeah, simple. Right? Demand and supply rule.
Demand and supply. So you have to fail them. Yes. This is the very Gandhian
Gandhian thought. I understand that.
ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਦੁਕਾਨ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਫੇਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ।
Yeah.
Right? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਫੇਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ। So
stop
you
the
have
demand.
Yes, so you have to say ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਲੈਣਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਪਿੰਡ 'ਚ ਘੁੰਮੀ ਜਾਣ ਜਿਹੜੇ 4 ਬੂੜੀਆਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਘੁੰਮਦੇ ਆ। Right? And this mothers against drugs, I am very convinced. ਮੈਂ ਬੜਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਟਰੈਵਲ ਕੀਤਾ, ਬੜਾ ਘੁੰਮਿਆ ਮੈਂ। ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਇਹ ਹੋਣਾ। ਇਹ ਜੇ if they motivate the mothers, not as women, ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ 2-4 ਆਰਗੂਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਲੇਡੀਜ਼ ਵੀ 2 ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਡਰੱਗ, ਇਹ ਛੋਟੇ ਐਗਜ਼ਾਮਪਲ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਯੂ ਕਾਂਟ ਜਨਰਲਾਈਜ਼ them. ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਤਾਂ ਰਹੇਗਾ ਹੀ, ਕ੍ਰਾਸ ਜੈਂਡਰ, ਬਟ if they motivate this and are able to build a strong campaign of mothers against drugs, they will keep a watch on their children as well as keep a watch around their societies and villages. It can really work very well.
So you have put a strong narrative of patriarchy in this book, right?
Sorry.
I would come to that book. I will come to that point and ask you, living in a patriarchal world, do you think that would be possible?
We are largely existing in a patriarchal world. That is the fight. Okay, we have to change from this patriarchy to a neutral world.
How can we do that? What could we shift?
Well, we are shifting a lot. Well, education is one of the biggest tools. Independence, financial independence for women. That is the next step. So largely, so we have made quite a shift from this very strong patriarchal society towards a more neutral society.
So moving towards the neutral society, you mean to say we need to have more educated women?
Education amongst men also, because it sensitizes men also towards their behavior. There are roles towards the other gender. So obviously overall education and financial independence for women. I mean, nothing works like financial independence. Je tusi sirf BA ਵਿਆਹ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ ਫਿਰ ਤਾਂ then that doesn't work. Right? So then you are actually falling prey to patriarchy. So financial independence is a big thing. And now I think currently the government is really focused on empowering women. In fact, I think the theme was also Nari Shakti. So it's I think it's a good thing. Why patriarchy? I mean, Punjab has been through pehle infanticide, fir feticide, so this has to be stopped.
Not patriarchy, not matriarchy, but neutral society.
Neutral. Why should it shift to matriarchy also then? Then the problem is not solved.
Yeah, it'll only mean a radical shift. That is what it will only mean.
There are factors when industrialization happens. Factors change. I mean, that's the Marx theory also.
Yep.
So there is nothing as Eastern or Western culture. It's only when the means of production change, people start behaving differently. It's simple. So, Western aa gaya, jeena paliyan. No, nothing of that sort. It's only when the means of production change, people live differently, they behave differently. They start doing that.
But I believe, sir, external forces do make a lot of difference.
The moment means of production changes, everyone starts living differently. People procure a car, people buy a cloth which is better, which is work oriented. You design clothes differently. It's all about means of production changing. Why we say this is because means of production changed in the West earlier. That's why we say this is Western culture.
But then we do have indigenous culture. Would that be negating the whole idea of having
because
a
means of production
thing?
were not there. As in when the means of production changed, we changed.
But more or less we were thrown under the bus.
No, means of why haven't we progressed?
Yeah, we have.
Yes, absolutely.
We significantly have.
Means of productions will change and grow. People will progress. Why should people remain ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਜੁੱਤੀ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਘੁੰਮਣਾ ਜੀ ਤਿੱਲੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਜਾਂ ਧੋਤੀ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਘੁੰਮਣਾ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਵਰਕ ਕਲਚਰਲੀ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਕਾਈਂਡ ਆਫ ਕਲੋਥਸ ਕਨਵੀਨੀਅੰਟ ਕਲੋਥਸ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੈ ਹੁਣ ਪੀਪਲ ਵਾਂਟ ਟੂ ਸੇ ਦੈਟ ਵੀ ਵਾਂਟ ਟੂ ਰਨ ਇਨ ਸਾੜੀਜ਼ I mean
that is not practical, of course.
So as means of production changed, you better running equipment came in, track pants came in. It has nothing to do with Eastern or Western, kind of a thing.
But that is, won't you say that is a subplot of it?
No,
not in the inherent.
But largely, if you were to look at it in a practical way, that is the premise, right? So we can keep discussing and rediscussing these things. But largely, the premise of the world economics is wherever the means of production have changed, habits have changed.
All right. Okay. I want to ask you, how much literature can affect curbing this menace?
Well, literature does help. People do read. People do understand. People, so everything is a contributing factor. When I started my walk, people said, "What will it do?" 10 years ago, when ਮੈਰਾਥਨ ਜਦੋਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਸੀ ਉਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ 2 ਬੰਦੇ ਭੱਜਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ। ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਪਟਿਆਲੇ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਜਲੰਧਰ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਮੈਰਾਥਨ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ, 500 ਬੰਦਾ ਭੱਜਦਾ ਹੈ। ਰਾਈਟ, ਸੋ ਐਵਰੀ ਐਫਰਟ makes a difference.
Yeah, it counts.
Right, it counts. So literature is a very strong pillar of a reflection, of a mirror to a society. So literature really can provoke minds, and literature can really bring out the issue at hand and open up a debate and lead to conclusions, lead to answers, lead to questions, and then answers. So literature is very important. Imagine if there was no literature.
For the matter of just kidding around, I wouldn't be sitting around here.
Yeah, so imagine if there was no literature. I mean, there was no writing, there was nothing to highlight, there was nothing to write, no one was writing. I mean, I wish more people write in Punjab, whether it's English, Hindi, Punjabi, whatever language they are comfortable with. They should be able to express themselves.
Yeah, right.
And it also helps. देखो ऐदा है कि ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨਾ ਹਰ ਬੰਦਾ ਇਹ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਬਬਲ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ, ਰਾਈਟ। ਆਪਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਜ਼ਰੀਏ ਨਾਲ ਕੱਢਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਕੋਈ ਪੈਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੱਢਦਾ ਹੈ, ਕੋਈ ਪੇਂਟ ਬਰਸ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੱਢਦਾ ਹੈ, ਰਾਈਟ, ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਮੈਥਡ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਦਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਫਰਸਟਰੇਟ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਉਹ ਬੰਦੂਕ ਨਾਲ ਕੱਢਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਾਡਾ ਐਮਫਸਿਸ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵਿਟੀ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ means of expression rakhiye than any violent form.
Yeah. At least it will keep peace in society.
No, at least society needs peace. That is the way society has to exist. Why?
That is a thoughtful thing. All right. But sir, I have one problem here. I believe when two educated people debate with one another, the audience is also educated. Isn't that a big problem?
What is the problem in that?
Uneducated, or people who do not have any means, right? Or maybe the type of discussion that we're currently having, I believe it will rather be more suitable for a person who is generally aware, right? If a person is not so, and he is not so much educated,
but why
is there a point of discussing this, all the things?
No, why?
Don't you think this is a discussion of high class?
There is nothing as high class. What is high class? Koi high class nahi hai. These are thoughts.
Maybe a medium should change.
No. You can't say that
people are not even proficient in English.
That's okay. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋ, that's fine. But ਇਹ ਐਵੇਂ ਮਾੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਸਕੂਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਗਿਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਨਐਜੂਕੇਟਡ ਹੈ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਤੇ ਵੀ ਮੇਕ ਹਿਮ or her eligible to be part of any conversation. No, not at all. ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ conversation ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, this is oral information is flowing through an oral discourse, and everyone learns, right? And why should anyone be deprived of it? No, there is nothing as ਕਿ ਦੋ ਐਜੂਕੇਟਡ ਉਹ elite ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਉਹ ਨੇ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ circumstances ਨਾਲ education ਮਿਲ ਗਿਆ, but why should a person who has not gone to school or not taken formal education be deprived of that? They have their own common sense. They have their own. ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਥਰੂ ਲਾਈਫ ਸਕਿੱਲਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿੱਖੀਆਂ, ਉਹ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਲਾਈਫ ਸਕਿੱਲ ਸਿੱਖ ਲੈਂਦਾ।
That's true.
right?
That's true.
So yeah, absolutely, this is not correct. ਐਂਡ ਇਹ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਾ ਦਿਸ ਇਜ਼ ਬਿਕਮ ਅ ਨੌਨਸੈਂਸਿਕਲ ਥਿੰਗ ਕਿ ਕੋਈ ਦੋ ਬੰਦੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਇਹ ਡਰਾਇੰਗ ਰੂਮ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ। ਯਾਰ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਤਾਂ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ, ਦੈਟ ਇਜ਼ ਹਾਊ ਨੈਰੇਟਿਵਸ ਆਰ ਬਿਲਡ। ਪਹਿਲੇ ਫ੍ਰੈਂਚ ਰੈਵੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ ਕੈਫੇਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਿਸਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੋਈ, ਬਿਲਡਅਪ ਹੋਈ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਐਂਡ ਦੈਨ ਇਟ ਬਿਲਟ ਇਨਟੂ ਅ ਰੈਵੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ। ਸੋ ਜਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਕਿਤਾਬੀ ਗੱਲਾਂ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਤਾਂ ਸੋ
That's true.
But every discussion achieves some objective. Every word spoken, whether through someone who has formally gained education or...
Is it reaching the right audience though?
What is reaching the right audience? What is...
Our means of communication, our means of communicating the idea.
It will reach, ਜਿਹਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸਮਝ ਲੈਂਦਾ।
Or should we change our medium?
ਨਹੀਂ, ਸੋ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਮੀਡੀਅਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਸੋ ਜੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਹੁੰਚਦੀ, ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਰਾਈਟ? ਬਟ ਦੈਟ ਡਜ਼ਨਟ ਮੀਨ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਧੱਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹੋ ਮੈਂ ਇਹੀ ਮੀਡੀਅਮ 'ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂ। ਦੈਟ ਇਜ਼ ਆਲਸੋ ਇਨਕਰੈਕਟ।
That is a whole narrative actually. Forcing a language on someone. This is also a narrative that is currently going on going.
These things
all
will
around
keep
India.
happening.
And a political debate.
These things will keep happening. ਇਹ cyclicals ਨੇ, ਆਉਂਦੇ ਰਹਿਣਗੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ don't think, I mean, ਦੇਖੋ language, ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੀ language ਬੋਲਦੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੀ language ਵਿੱਚ ਮਾਹਿਰ ਵੀ ਨੇ, ਸਾਰੇ ਆਪਣੀ language ਨੂੰ proudly ਵੀ hold ਕਰਦੇ ਆ। These are all ਐਵੇਂ politics ਹੈ। I've seen all these people. They just try to create these impressions, you know. One shouldn't bother about this. ਪੰਜਾਬ ਨੂੰ progress ਜਾਂ ਇੰਡੀਆ ਨੂੰ progress ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ 'ਚ ਫਸਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਉਲਝਾਈ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੈ।
Right. My ultimate question would be, what is the right way of doing it? Spreading awareness, bringing mothers.
Yeah, mass media, everything will matter. I mean, this conversation will matter. A good campaign will matter. Punjab doesn't have role models. The problem is कि किदी गल सुनन young. केड़ा role model है पंजाब च? कोई भी नहीं है। कोई पॉलिटिकल लीडर मैंने एक दस दिओ ਜਿਹੜਾ role model ਹੈ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਹੇ ਕਿ ਬੱਚੋ ਡਰੱਗਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨੇ, ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਦੇयर इज नो ਕਿਹੜਾ ਹੀਰੋ ਹੈ, ਕਿਹੜਾ ਸਪੋਰਟਸਮੈਨ ਹੈ। there are no role models. So but every effort helps. Be it a mass media campaign, be this conversations like this, be they sports activities, be they marathons, be they enforcement, be social media campaigns. Everything helps. The point is that everyone has to stand united. There cannot be कि मैं credit लवां या ए credit लवे. Punjab has to fight this in a very united manner. कभी भी society चो जो ill खत्म करना हुंदा ना, when ills ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਬੜੀ determination ਨਾਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ, and the entire state entire people have to become united towards finishing it.
It is a people's war.
I mean, lives are getting ruined. It's ਬੱਚੇ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਹੈ, young ਬੱਚੇ, young lives ਐਡੇ ਤਗੜੇ ਇੱਦੇ ਆ। ਮਾਂ ਪਿਓ ਨੇ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਪਾਲੇ, and suddenly they are falling prey to this kind of nonsense. ਔਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਡੀਲ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਯਾਰ ਸ਼ਰਮ ਕਰੋ। ਆਪਣੇ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਆਪਣੇ ਸਟੇਟ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਖਤਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ। I mean, ਕਿਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ show your some strength in or commitment, ਕੋਈ patriotism, ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਟੇਟ ਨੂੰ, ਕੋਈ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਤਾਂ ਦਿਖਾਓ।
Conscience.
ਹਾਂ, but it's sad ਕਿ when your own people are ruining you.
That is true.
Yeah.
Can we shift to a little political debate?
मैं politics है नहीं, but yeah.
Would that be fine? As you have mentioned, sir, we do not have a political person who would come up and be the figure and build this narrative that it is not good to go with drugs, right? I believe there has been a political vacuum in Punjab for a long while. Do you agree with this?
Absolutely. Because the narrative of politics is so low कि कि people largely, are not inspired by their talk. After all, ਆਪਣੀ ਕੁਰਸੀ, ਆਪਣੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ, ਆਪਣੀ ਉਹਦੀ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਆਪ ਬਣਾਉਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ. So people are not inspired because their narrative is so low. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਤਾਂ ਸਹੀ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਨੇ.
Yeah. We can clearly see what radicalization is currently going on.
It is not about radicalization. The point is, it is the radicalization forces ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਰਹਿਣਗੀਆਂ, these will be cyclicals. ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ the narrative is so low amongst politicians. ਇੰਨੇ ਪਰਸਨਲ ਰਿਮਾਰਕਸ, ਇੰਨੀ ਕੋਈ ਸਟੇਟ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰੈਸ 'ਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨਾਲ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਕਰਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ. ਦੇ ਆਰ ਜਸਟ ਟਰਾਈਬਲ ਜਿਹਾ ਕੰਮ ਹੋਇਆ in Punjab.
Maybe we need a strong government.
It has nothing to do with the government. It's the culture. It's the people who we are. That's
That
the
could be
problem.
the best thing that could be done.
So someone has to build a narrative. Someone has to rise above this and just focus on just talking about progress. That's it. How can we make the state progress? Simple.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling currently with drug addiction?
Well, take help, whatever. Share it with your parents. Take counseling. Take help and be determined. Tagde hovo. I think that is very important. We are in a land of gurus. यार gurus ने ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਭ ਚੀਜ਼ refrain ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ. So take inspiration from all quarters. Take spiritual inspiration, take religious inspiration, take parental inspiration, take medical help, take counseling, and build yourself physically.
Right.
ਆਪਣੀ 2 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਸੈਰ ਕੀਤੀ, ਫਿਰ 3 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਕੀਤੀ. ਅੱਛੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੋ, change your company. So use all resources which are at your hand, to build it.
This is one way of putting things. Well, spirituality can be a way in which you can get out of these things, right? Meditation helps. Meditation has helped a lot of people. Maybe it can also help in this. What do you think about that?
Yeah, anything can help. Anything which can give you determination, peace. So basically, what is it? It's largely a result of some sort of a frustration, or a chaos in life. So anything that can help you bring peace, even talking to your mother, father can bring you peace. So anything that can bring you peace, use that tool. ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਕੀ ਹੈ? ਉਹ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਜੀ ਸਪਿਰਿਚੁਅਲਿਟੀ ਸਿਰਫ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਦਿਸ ਇਜ਼ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ. ਦੇਰ ਆਰ 101 ਟੂਲਸ, ਬਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਉਹ ਕਹੇਗਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਿਰਫ ਇਹੀ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਹੈ. ਉਹ ਬੰਦਾ ਸਾਰੀ ਉਮਰ ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਉਲਝਿਆ ਰਹੇਗਾ. So this is the problem.
Everyone is selling their own products.
Yes, absolutely.
But nonetheless, they are also helpful. We cannot deny that.
That's okay. They are helpful. But ਜੇ ਕਹੋ ਕਿ ਮੇਰਾ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਹੀ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਇਹੀ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਕਿ ਰੱਬ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਇਹ, this is
there are many ways to get out of it.
This is incorrect. ਇਹਦੀ specific help ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, medical help ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, counseling ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ. Lot of things are required.
Would you say, sir, that drafting policies in the right way would help in this?
Absolutely.
Would help
drafting
policy.
So see, let me tell you, drafting policy not ke drugs khatam karne hai. Drafting policy of a state where the education system, where industry, where progress, everything, ਉਹੋ ਜੀ policy that helps. ਕੱਲੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ drugs ਦੀ policy ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ ਤੁਰ ਸਕਦੇ. ਜੇ ਸਟੇਟ ਹੀ ਨਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰੈਸ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ,
right.
ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਇਨਫੋਰਸਮੈਂਟ ਲਈ ਲਾਅ ਬਣਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ, ਪੁਲਿਸ ਹੈ। ਸੋ when you say policy means it's a wholesome policy. It's not ਕਿ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੀ policy ਹੈ. It has to be an economically viable policy ਜਿਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਸਾਰੇ grow ਕਰਨ, farming grow ਕਰੇ, agriculture grow ਕਰੇ, ਜੋ core sectors ਨੇ grow ਕਰਨ, technology sector ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ grow ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ. So when people grow, then they don't resort to these things.
I have an additional comment to say about it. I was going through a report, and the report said that drug menace is more prominent in the border areas of a state, right? Why so? Because infrastructural development, employment, and industrialization is not to much extent over there.
Wait, that's a drawback of a border state, na? Because which industry wants to come on a border? Koi nahi aunda. See, these are practical problems. So ਉੱਥੇ growth ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ. Also, the border, the kind of border that we have, our neighbor has always tried to destabilize, this part. But also, border areas which largely, especially when India Pakistan ਦਾ hype ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ election ਜਿੱਤਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿੱਤੇ ਆਏ 60s ਤੋਂ ਜਿੱਤੇ ਆਏ, right?
True.
So which industry will come there ਕਿ ਹਰ 5-7 ਸਾਲ 'ਚ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਸੂੜੀ ਪਈ ਰਵੇ? No one goes there. ਅੱਛਾ, then the security agencies largely dominate that area. So ਉੱਥੇ ਕਈ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਵੈਸੇ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ because of the border, conditions. Border conditions or regulation. So border area ਦੇ ਲੋਕ by circumstances ਪਿਛੜੇ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ, right? And obviously ਜੇ your neighbor is trying to push in, so ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਤੇ ਲੱਗਦੇ ਆ ਲੋਕ, ਉਹੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ transit points ਲੋਕ ਬਣਦੇ ਨੇ ਨਾ. So there are many factors to it, and how do you deal with that? ਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ education system ਆਏ, ਕੀ ਆਏ? So that policy has to be very, very smart. So border area has, and Punjab's disadvantage has been that, right? And I feel for the people from the border because ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ circumstances ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ beyond control ਨੇ. We are prisoners of geography. I mean, there's a book, you should read that. So ਇਹਨਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਐਵੇਂ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ there are factors which are we call prisoners of geography. You can't change those. So you can only build yourself. ਇਹ geography ਦਾ change ਹੋਣੀ ਨਹੀਂ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ? We are prisoners of it. So ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ smart ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ is...
So, moving along from this whole debate, I want to move to your book. I want to discuss a few things. How did the specific context of 1980s Punjab influence your portrayal of drug use in the book? You have already
said... As I said, I've grown up in that area. I wanted to write about that time,
right,
about that era. So, मेरी memory सी ये era में. So maybe it's also a sort of a catharsis for me to write and bring out a perspective of shared pain, so that someone in Bangalore reads it and she can understand the pain that Punjab went through, not through the eyes of what these nonsensical TV channels showcase to people without any perspective.
Without any perspective?
Obviously, there's a perspective to every problem. The problem doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote this.
All right. I know what the Opium Toffee means. Can you explain it to the audience?
It's just a title. So I love the title. That's it.
That's it. All right. All right. So Ajit's character, his arc is a really tragic one. Can you elaborate it a little bit?
I mean, people should read the book to understand this, but the arc is tragic because I have written that though this is fiction, this could have happened to so many youngsters during that phase.
That is true.
So that arc, a lot of youngsters went through that arc.
Okay. I believe, sir, that should be all for the podcast. As you have brilliantly concluded everything and put your points, I would really say that it was one perspective that I got to know, and I really appreciate that. And with this, we will wrap this podcast, right?
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you
for
so much
having
for
me on your show.
agreeing to doing this podcast, sir, first of all, right? And with the ending note, I want to just say that we at CognifAI, we are providing mental health treatment to people who want to go to counselors and want to have psychiatrists or need to go through the mental wellness programs, right? We are trying to do that at CognifAI Health. CognifAI Studios is one part of that. So people who want to go to through counseling or want their mental health to be treated well, they can come at cognify.io and we'll certainly try to help them. We are also trying to connect mental health professionals with the patients as well. And with that, I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And yeah, that'll be all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Uh, I would like you to sign the book.
Katoch, right?
Harsh.
Harsh, yes.
HARSH.
Sorry. It's cold, the weather.
Yeah. Thank you so much.